Hi, I'm Doug from 10 Minute Amiga Retrocast, and welcome to another episode of the Chicken Head Chronicles. This one is going to be an unboxing video, as you could probably tell by the title. My good friend Sven Pooks, you guys know Sven, he's a great guy from the Netherlands. He's the one who created the little interface for the Commodore 128 so we could display the 80-column display on a standard like a LCD type screen or HDMI monitor. You'll see a link to the video there. It's an awesome thing and really useful and worth purchasing. But Sven has been keeping an eye out for me for probably maybe a year for a 1551 drive for my Commodore Plus 4. They weren't particularly common over here because they didn't sell a lot of Commodore 16s and Commodore Plus 4s over here. We were all Commodore 64 all the way. Over in the United States, collectively, we laughed at the Commodore 16 and not as much, but also at the Commodore Plus 4. Beautiful machines, lovely machines, cool features, almost completely incompatible with the Commodore 64 line, both in hardware and software, and we could not imagine where Commodore was coming from. The 1551 drives for these machines are a little harder to find in the United States. They just didn't sell well. Nobody was using them. 1541 drives, they're a dime a dozen over here. You can find people that have 20, 30, 40 drives just sitting in their house. Myself, I have like 8 or 10 of them. They're just all over the place. They reproduce like rabbits. 1551s, which use a parallel interface that plugs into the expansion port of the Commodore 16 and the Plus 4, much less common, almost never see them. So Sven found one not too far from his house, a couple-hour drive from his house. Some guy was selling the 1551 drive and some other Commodore 264 line hardware. So he stopped by and he got a good deal on them, and he picked them up for me, and I really appreciate it. Shipped them over the United States. I've got them right here in this big old box. I have not opened it yet. Let's take a look how they're packaged, how they came over from the Netherlands, and we'll see if they work. Come on. You will notice that we have a visitor on the show today. This is my little Angela, who is apparently upset because I'm sitting in her favorite chair that she likes to sit in the front room. Angela, are you going to be in the shot today? You going to be famous on YouTube? Good girl, kitty. Now Sven did an excellent job packing this up. It's covered in a like a garbage bag type material, probably to keep the box from getting wet as on its travels since it came over the ocean. So let's get this little guy opened up and see what's inside. First, we take off the outer wrap. I can see you there, Angela. I know you think you're hiding behind my monitor, but we can still see you, little girl. Now that we have the outer wrap taken off, let's get inside to the meat and potatoes here. Lots and lots of bubble wrap. That's fantastic. We'll just throw it all on the floor, which will make my wife quite happy. Nice. Okay. With all the bubble wrap taken out, you see we've probably got the computer in there, probably the 1551 drive, and then there are some more little surprises. Let's get some of these little things open. Let's see what's inside of this guy first. Careful, Douglas. Have to say, excellent packing job. He really went out of his way to make sure this stuff arrived safely. Okay, we have the outer layer off. Now we just carefully unwrap 12 miles of bubble wrap here. And look what we have here. A beautiful Commodore 16. Of course, these are using the traditional bread bin like the Commodore VIC-20 and the Commodore 64 used, but they have this nice matte black look to them with gray keys. The layout of the keys is slightly different. There's no restore key. Then the function keys are a little funny. F1 and F4, F2 and F6. I'm sorry, F2 and F5, F3 and F6, and then help, and then F7. So they're numbered a little differently than your normal keyboard would be. Over here on the left, I'm sorry, that's the right, it's got the same joystick ports that the Commodore Plus 4 has, which do have adapters, and I do have a couple of adapters to use standard Atari joysticks. Now they did this in order to save space. Same thing with the dataset cartridge, which I'll show you in a second. They changed the size of this to better fit in the case. Has a reset button, which we all wish we had on our Commodore 64s, power button, and then a 9-volt, just a barrel connector here, center negative, outside positive. That's very important because most barrel connectors are center positive. So if you have to get a 9-volt one, make sure you get center negative. I think I have one that'll work. On the back, we have an expansion port. They call it memory expansion. That's for video game cartridges. And that's also where the 1551 drive is going to plug into. Then we have RF here, and high and low, since this is a PAL machine, not an NTSC machine, you've got a high and low switch instead of a channel 2, channel 3 switch we'd have over here in NTSC land, where Jesus lives, as my good friend Chris Edwards says. We've got a 8-DIN video connector. In theory, this should work with S-Video, just like the good old newer versions of the Commodore 64 do. And you have a standard serial connection, which you can use for printers and the slower 1541 drives. And lastly, we have a cassette port over here, which is totally different than the standard cassette port for the Commodore 64 and VIC-20, but there is an adapter that allows you to use the old ones. Nothing over here on the left-hand side. I have no idea if this is going to work. We're going to try it out together in a few minutes. Now, nicely, we also have the Commodore 16 manual. I assume, oh, look at this. It has the original owner's name, Christian Peach. Huh, that's really cool. It has the original owner's name in there. And it is entirely in Dutch, which I don't read Dutch, but that's still absolutely awesome. My son Daniel, one of his best friends, speaks fluent Dutch, so I can have him come over from the Netherlands and translate this for me. I'm sure that's an efficient use of his time. But it's really cool that the manual's here. Now this box is a little squished up, but that's okay because it was totally protected inside. We're going to just open her up and see how this 1551 drive looks. And after some finagling, the drive comes out. Now, if you take a look physically at the drive, you can see it's got some of the traditional burn marks here from wrapping the cord around it and leaving it there for a couple of years. It chemically melts the plastic over 5 or 10 years or so. It's just a normal thing that happens. Nothing you can do about it. But I can probably sand that down very lightly and at least help eliminate it. You see, it looks just like a 1541 drive, except a lovely black color. The biggest difference is going to be the connector, which plugs into the expansion port on the back of the Commodore 16 or the back of the Plus 4. This is a parallel where the connector traditionally for the 1541 drives is a serial, literally probably 10, maybe 12 times faster data transfer than the 1541. You can really get some fast performance out of these, which I'm looking forward to experimenting with and seeing how it works. Really cool. Now the other thing you'll notice, it uses the standard kettle connector here. It says it uses 220 volt power. I'm going to have to look and see if I can plug it into 110 and it will automatically convert it. Some things do, some things do not. We'll have to see. If not, I do have a 220 to or 110 to 220 step-up converter. The other thing you'll notice, even though it has a little cutout here, you can see that, a little hole there, where your traditional serial connector would go. This has no capability of handling a second drive. So you got drive 8, and that's it. You want additional hard drives, you have to go through the IEC connector and hook up a standard 1541. I don't think there was ever a way to plug in multiple 1551 drives. We've also got a nice 1551, 1541 test and demo disc here. I'm looking forward to trying that out. And we got a bunch of other stuff. Let's go ahead and pull it out, open it up, and see what Sven sent us. We've got 3 little boxes here he sent us, and a package. Let's open up this little package first, see what's in it. We have Sport Show for the Commodore 116, C16, and Plus4. No idea what it is, but it's a game and it's on floppy, so that's cool. I'm glad I have some floppies to test. Then we have, it's called Sextet. Oh my goodness. So we have Karate King, Out on a Limb, Terra Nova, Jump Jet, Alien Invasion, and Strip Poker. You know which one I'm going to try. Jump Jet. Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm going to try first. Now, you'll notice this says +4/C16, then it says 64K. Very possibly these are going to be 64K games, which are not going to run on my new C16 until I up the memory to 64K, but I do own a +4 and they'll work just fine on there. Got a cool little manual in here that talks about how to play some of the various games. Instructions, that's kind of nice. I'm going to need a magnifying glass to read it. Look at that fine print. And it's all in Dutch, so time for Google Translate. The floppy looks like it's in fine shape. Then we've got Kingsoft Space Pilot, another one I've never heard of, but I'm excited to try. Also entirely in Dutch, and just a floppy in here where the people who distributed the disc just put their own silver label over an off-the-shelf 5¼ inch disc, which is perfectly fine. Let's open up some of these boxes and see what we have here. You know, these are sounding like cartridges. That would be cool. Oh my goodness, no. They're tapes. Terra Cognita. One Man and His Droid. Ooh, this is cool. Master Chess, that's going to be fun. Pinpoint. Saboteur. Zadium. Zagan Warrior. Frank Bruno's Boxing. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I've never heard of any of these games. Skyhawk. Death Race 16. Nice. Ace Combat Emulator. Winter Olympics. Ooh, here we go. Ikari Warriors for the Commodore 16. Wow, that's really cool. I love Ikari Warriors. Mercenary. The Way of the Tiger. You know, a lot of these, including this one, say that they work on the Commodore Plus4, which means they require 64K. What if we're incredibly lucky and this Commodore 16 comes standard with 64K? If the guy did the upgrade back in the 80s, that would be cool. Formula One Simulator, Speed King, Diagon, Gun and Law, Star Force Nova, Storm. There were a lot more games for this Commodore TED line than I ever suspected. Torpedo Alley, Battle, this one's called Lection, but there's no cool splash screen on it. Now you're saying, Douglas, you've got all these cool tapes that came with it, but you have no tape drive for the Commodore 16 that's going to work. Well, I bought this off of Goodwill about 4, 5, 6 months ago. This is a 1531 Commodore data set that just happened to ship in a 1530 drive box. So I've never even opened this. I've never tested to see if it works. I may have to replace the belts, but I do have the matching tape drive for the Commodore 16 too. So it is going to be a complete package here, which is actually really cool. Now what I would want to find out is if any of this stuff actually works. So I'm going to hook it up and I'm going to see if she boots. Come join me, take a look. So how am I going to hook up this Commodore 16 to a more modern display? Well, this little guy right here. This one I think was sent to me by my friend Frank from Retro Rewind. You guys know Retro Rewind, but I know John Kennedy from Commodore Forever also sold these, and I've got 1 or 2 from him. Uses the same 8-pin DIN in the back, and then gives us S-video, gives us audio split into 2 channels, even though it just takes the 1 channel and puts it into 2, and then composite. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use one little cable. I'm going to use red for audio and then white for video, and I'm just going to try it out composite. I'll mess around with it, seeing if it works with S-video later. What am I going to hook it up to? Take a look. I got this little monitor for about 10 bucks at local Goodwill, and what it has is it has S-video, it has composite in, and then standard RCA in. It also has AV out, which is really cool because in theory what I can do is take the audio output and pump that over to my capture device, so I can have it displayed on this monitor here, and then I can just have it uplinked to my capture device and captured at the same time, which is actually kind of cool. We're going to hook this up, see if she works. The adapter fits fine into the 8-port DIN, does not block any of the other connectors, which I'm happy with. Again, in theory, I can't think of any reason why it shouldn't work. Be cool to have one in black though that matches. I'll have to see about that. For power, I picked this up off of Amazon for about 15 bucks. It is a center negative AC adapter where you can adjust the voltage. You can go from 3 volt up to 12 volts. So I'll set this little guy for 9 volts. And then it has a replaceable header on it. So I'll put the proper sized header on here to fit in there. In theory, it should work. So right now, all we have is the power and the video and the audio hooked up. Now, Sven did not present this to me as a working Commodore 16 because he did not have a power supply to test it. This will be the first time I try it. I have no idea what it's going to do. It could start on fire. We've got a red light on here. And oh, look at that. Commodore Basic, version 3.5, 12.277 bytes free. The Commodore 16 functions. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The keyboard is working great. J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Q, yep. Keyboard is working fantastic. Now you'll notice it's in black and white. And the reason it's in black and white is because it's a PAL system. This monitor is only doing NTSC. I'll have to hook it up to one of my other monitors that supports PAL in addition to NTSC, or use my converter, and then I can get this little guy in full color. I'm just thrilled that it works. Let's check out the tape drive. Tape drive's hooked up. We're going to try Akari Warriors. It says this works on a Commodore 16. We're going to see if this tape drive's any good. Again, I have absolutely no idea if it's any good. It's rewinding it just fine. So obviously the belts, while they probably need to be replaced, are still functional. We're going to go ahead and reboot this, or rewind this thing. And then, because the Commodore 16s, I believe, use the disk drive standard with deload, we're going to just do a standard load. Press play on tape. The screen blanks. I will get back to you in a second and time this and see how long it takes to load. Now looky here. This is not Akari Warriors, is it? This is Speed King. The reason that I had to load Speed King is because Akari Warriors literally would not load. It just went through the whole tape, didn't load. Speed King loaded, maybe 45 seconds to a minute. Not bad for a 16K game. Again, it's in black and white simply because it's PAL displaying on an NTSC monitor. Oh, and look at this. Absolutely horrible Mastertronic game. More fluid animation on my Atari 2600, but the sound is fine. And the graphics are okay. Good, that works. As I mentioned, I have one of these adapters, 9-pin to the round DIN. You can still get those. I'll have to look up where I got mine from, and if I can find it, I'll put the link in the description, but they're easy to get on eBay. They work just fine. Let's try the disk drive. Since the drive is listed as 220, I've got this step-up electrotometer here that will output either 110 or 220, and it goes both directions. So I can set the input to whatever I want. Right now I have it set to 110, which is American. And this should output 220 right here and allow me to use this 1551 drive. We're going to test and see if it explodes. So I've got the converter plugged in now. I'm going to power on the drive. I do get a green light on the drive, which is a good sign. And we're going to power on the Commodore 16, basic ready, perfect. Now, deload is what we want to use since this uses basic 3.5. So I'm going to see what's on this disk. You know, I don't even need to do this, do I? I can probably just type directory. Yep, reads the drive. This is good. And gives me a flashing red light on the drive, which is perfectly acceptable. Probably just means I need to take the little guy apart, clean it up, see if I can get it working, or it means this floppy disk is bad. Yeah, file not found error. We're going to try another disk just in case this floppy is bad. I think we'll try Space Pilot. That needs some echo, doesn't it? Space Pilot, 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 Pilot. And this will test the theory if it's the drive that's flaky or maybe just that one disk that's gone bad over the years. Reset the drive. And I'm going to do another directory. Strange positioning for the cursor keys here. They're up at the top. Loading in the directory. See if it does anything. Nope. And we get the flashing red light again on the front of the 1551. That leads me to believe probably got to take this apart, clean the heads and give it a good lubrication, and we'll probably get this 1551 working just perfectly. We'll save that for another show. Huge thanks to Sven Pooks for finding these products and selling them to me at such reasonable prices, and they came over really quick. It was like a week. I swear, it's less expensive and faster to order something from like the Netherlands or Italy or something and get it shipped to the United States than it would be for me to order something from New York and get it shipped to Tucson. It's actually less expensive and it gets here sooner and more reliably. It's weird. Huge thanks to my patrons who you've seen scrolling down the screen here. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I really do appreciate it. So what am I going to do with this little guy, my little Commodore 16? Well, first of all, I'll get a monitor. I'll find one of my monitors that supports PAL right out of the box so I can get the nice color out of this thing. I've got a couple of them that I've got my PAL Commodore 64 from my friend Sanxian, Tim Drew, that displays fine in color. So I'll just use the same monitor for my Plus 4. No problem at all. C16. I'm thrilled to pieces that the 1531 tape drive works. I'll clean the heads anyways, and I'll try and find one of those azimuth utilities where you can align the little azimuth in there. But it loads okay. It loaded that first game. The second game I tried loaded fine. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'll take apart this 1551 drive, get a good lubrication, clean the heads, see if I can bring her back to life. The good news is the drive responds to commands. That is 90% of the battle. If it tries to read from the drive, chances are it's just dirty heads that, you know, haven't been cleaned in 30 plus years. I think it'll work fine, and I'm really interested in doing a head-to-head loading some big files on a Commodore 64 and 1541 and then the 1551 and see just how much faster the drive is. I understand it's a lot faster. So another Commodore gets into my collection. Getting close to having the full set here. Got to catch them all, you know that. A couple more things that I have to track down, but slowly but surely. I just need more room for them now. Thanks again for joining me today. There'll be more adventures on the Commodore 16 when I get it set up the way that I want to. And so you'll be seeing more of this over the next couple of months. But until next time, this is Doug from 10 Minute Amiga Retrocast, signing out.